Okay, our next lesson here is on particle systems. And virtually what a particle system is a generator of geometry that controls the geometry to constantly flow. It is a system. Okay, it's not just a series of particles, but it's a system that generates and takes away these particles. So we go back up to create geometry, because we are creating geometry. It's just going to be a very complex system of it. And we find particle systems, the fourth one down. Now there are several different particle systems, and we played around with several of these, especially in our very first lesson in Animation 2. Some of them you're probably familiar with. Particle cloud, we'll start with that one. We use that in our underwater scene in independent lesson number 2. When we click a particle system known as a P cloud, we define an area in which the particles sort of stay in. Now, the faster the speed of the particle, the more they'll deviate from this given area, but this C represents cloud. Now this is a nice particle system to use when you're confining, such as in maybe a fish tank, or something where you want bubbles floating around inside a fish tank. Every particle system has a modify command. However, each particle system has several different commands you can choose from. A particle cloud does not have to be a box. You can make it a sphere or a cylinder. Or we could even go out and have a particular object that we use as an object-based emitter. The icon is the actual size of that, so by changing these numbers, we'll get larger and smaller. Now I am in different units here, so our numbers will not be in generic for this lesson. Viewport display. Now this is pretty important to keep in mind if you have a powerful computer. You can experiment with these, but when we say viewport display, that's not what the final rendering is going to look like. We're not going to render little plus signs. But when we're in the viewport, ticks, dots, which you notice are a lot smaller, are mesh. Now the reason why we're not seeing a mesh is because I have not assigned a mesh design to my particle, so it doesn't show up. Percentage of particles is how many of the particles actually do we see in the viewport. Let's say I'm rendering 10,000 particles. Well, if I have 100% here, I will see 10,000 particles in my viewport. Is it necessary to see that many in the viewport? No. So sometimes turning your percentage down to 10, yeah, I only see one particle now, but if I increase this particle's amount, it will not crash my computer. Particle generation. A lot of people have been using the use total. Stay away from that. Go with use rate. Gives you more control. I go to 500. There we go. Now I'm going to see only 10% in my viewport. I can go back up, change that to 100. And that's how many particles I'll actually see when I go to render. Speed. Speed is, of course, how fast are these things moving. In a particle cloud, if I go in and do 1, you'll see they start to deviate away from the box. If I go in and do 20, notice how they start to break away from the container. So with a particle cloud, speed is really not a big thing here. We don't want to mess with that. And variation is the variation in the particle motion. Now I'm not going to go through all the different settings, but another common one that we will use is the timing. Start and stop. How long is it going to display? Well, I have 100 frames. I want to see it to 100. If you up the amount of frames, you have to up the amount of display. The life is how long they live. Again, they'll die at 101 frames. So we may have to extend the life if we extend our timeline. Particle size. Once we pick a particle type, this will define the size. Here we're looking about 1 inch in architectural units. Particle type. Standard particles is pretty much all we're going to need for here. In your fire tutorial, which I hope you'll go back and review, You'll use instance geometry, where you'll create an object and turn that into your particle system. And that's a great feature, but keep in mind that the larger the mesh, the harder it is for your computer to generate. Standard particles, the ones that we can choose from here, spheres are the most complex. If I go and render right now in this view, you see little spheres. Now let me go ahead and up the size so we can get a better look at this here. Maybe we'll go at 5 feet. Now I do a render, these things are going to be gigantic. Yeah. So I guess blob mesh. Right. Maybe I'll do 1 foot and see how they come out. Okay. Spheres are pretty high geometry. Tetra. Get you these little spikes. And triangle's another good one. A lot like Tetra. Now, they look kind of just like Doritos. But again, this is a particle system, so it will not look true until it's actually in motion. Some other types of particle systems that you need to be aware of that we'll be working with in our reenactment. You can go ahead and drag snow in. Maybe you're doing a wintertime scene and you need to show how snow is going to work. A particle system known as snow. The arrow here pointing down means that it will snow. If you notice, there's our snowflakes. Okay. Again, by hitting modify, you'll have several different settings that you can change your snowflakes to. So snow is a good one to use. Super spray. There we go. You got a little emitter here, and by default, the particles come out in a beam. We want this thing to spread out. You can actually set the off axis. So if I do 180, it's going to flip backwards. Okay. And the spread is going to go out and spread that, say 90 degrees. There it goes. It spreads in a 90-degree angle. And there are some of the common settings that we've been using. I'll go in and look at one more particle system here as a review. And the reason why I want to share these with you is because in a little bit we're going to be using a P-array to physically create an explosion that has multiple particle systems built into it, showing debris flying in different directions. So we'll get to P-array in a little bit, but also Blizzard is a lot like snow. It's pretty much more snow, a lot more snow, faster, and you have some wind control. A spray is very similar to that as well. A spray comes out in one direction, like this emitter here, so you could actually use this for rain. Okay, which would create a nice little effect if you're doing rain in your scene, or snow. Spray, blizzard, snow. Those are really good to use. Okay, so particle system, just as a basic review here. In our next one of the future lessons here, when we do explosions, you will see how we can go in and adjust the different features of a particle system.